And I'll make that, yeah. So, hello everyone. Abbe's shown up and talked, so I can't do my normal, I don't know if anyone's here bit. But, yeah. Hello to anyone else who is here, as well as Abbe, of course. But also hello to Abbe, even though I already said it in chat. What are we doing? So, first things first, I've decided that I'm going to take a little bit of time here to just... Lamp has said that it is important for me to try and... What was this? He used specific words that sort of go over my head. Something about engagement and viewer flow, something. Basically, he says that at the start of every stream I should take a couple minutes to sort of fill time. Whereas normally I'm like, panicking and being like, "Ooh, I've got to do this and this," and I'm checking off boxes and like, trying to get to the thing because we're here for a thing. He says I've got to take a little bit of time to give people a chance to arrive, which makes sense to me. Like, you don't always catch things at the start. So I'm supposed to do a little bit of talking, but I'm not really sure what I should be talking about. Because I just do this really. Like I work in the library and then I read. I don't have a lot of hobbies. I sometimes go on other people's streams, but it seems rude to talk about them because that's their stuff, and then I'm sort of using their stuff to my own benefit, which feels rude, So but yeah, I'm supposed to be talking you through. Lamp says I shouldn't be starting until 10 minutes after the start of the actual thing, which is a lot. But we'll try. I guess I'll talk about the stuff I do in the library, really. What do I do in the lab? So, every day's a little bit different, really. Like, it's a very strange place and things change. But what I've been doing a day then. Let's talk about what I've been doing a day. So the day, well, I went and got some new books, like the ones we were supposed to be reading. We've got two new ones here. We've got the Tractate Middoth, which I don't know about, but it's also by M.R. James. And we also got Rats by M.R. James, and I'm really excited for that one. I'm probably going to go out of order in these because, it's called Rats. It's going to be great. But yeah. So I went out. When did I go out there? Then would have been... Well, I would have left here around about 8 o'clock in the morning. I guess maybe I should do... I'm probably going out of order and it's all crazy. Let's do this in like sort of step by step. So I generally wake up sometime around 6 o'clock. I say around because, I don't... There's not like an alarm or anything, but, things is loud. I wake up a lot during the night. What'd you put it? Basically, I'll wake up several times because there'll be beasts or loud noises or things going off. And then around about 6 o'clock, I'll wake up and decide that I'm up for the day. I have my breakfast, which is cheese, a bit of water, do my ablutions, all that. Talk with Lamp, do any of the small ward maintenance stuff he needs me to do, like the wards. Can you guys see the wards? I think you can. Yeah, if I go here, you can see down at the bottom there. There's wards running all throughout the library. And I maintain a lot of them for Lamp. But when I say the minor ward maintenance, I mean the like stuff local to me, like this one here or any of that. Sometimes I do other like bigger ward maintenance for the library, and Lamp takes it for a while. But I do the small stuff here in the morning with whatever materials we have on hand, and then I sort of figure out what I need to do. Like Lamp will tell me sometimes he'll send me to go do stuff. Sometimes I'll have the time free and then I'll go find books or figure it out. I've got a little map's not the right word. You can't really map the library because it changes, but I've got like an idea of how things work, a little schema I'll work from. And so I'll go through that. I'll be like, where can I go find things? What am I looking for, etc, etc. About 10 o'clock is generally when I head out. It can be later if there's more stuff to do at home or whatever. And I can be delayed if there's like, beasts or like an awkward passageway or whatever, all sorts of things. Pretty normal. But yeah, so I head out around about 10 o'clock. And today I went looking for books. The M.R. Jameses have been pretty good because they're in like one of the... So most of the books I get that are fiction come from like private collections of Wizards, and they're a little bit difficult to find because they're all like, study rooms and all that. And Wizards have a horrible habit of making it so that their personal spaces move. This is the wrong screen. Because they like to have them hidden and like have them be hard to find. But the M.R. James ones are in like the spiritualism section for like the novice wizards, so they're pretty easy to find. So I've been going to them pretty regular. So I head off to them. Took me hour and a half to get there. Yeah, pretty decent day. I only ran into a couple of beasts and they're all pretty easily dodged. Then, what, 3-4 hours of digging through the, like, you know, sorting through the books, figuring out which ones was good. Found a couple, which is pretty good. You know, most days I don't find more than one. So, you know, I mean, I'm getting better at it, but yeah, that was a pretty good day. Come back probably around 3 o'clock. I had some late lunch, cheese, obviously, and then put the books in, ran a couple of errands for Lamp, took a bit of a nap. And I did my debrief for Lamp, my daily one before this stream, which he gives me some like the whole like talking now thing. That's one of the things he told me. Did he tell me any first? Oh yeah, he did. He mentioned there was he called it a minor planetary alignment, and so I was to be careful about the bad book. Which for anyone who doesn't know, we got this book here. This is the bad book, which yeah, this is the bad book. It's well, it's not a book really. Like where'd you put it? I don't know how to hang around it. Let's not hang around it too much. But it wasn't a book when it come in here, is what I mostly mean. It was some sort of like weird shadowy thing. Lamp called it an outside being or something. Yeah, it's one of those, he had like a bunch of terms for it, you know. But yeah, it was like tentacles and shadows and stuff. But then he sort of pushed it into being a book, and then he put those chains on the book there, and then yeah, that's what I mean. I feel like there should be more of that story. There's not really, but it's bad, and bad things happen near it, so I try to avoid it. Yeah, apparently there's some sort of cosmic alignment tonight that might make it more active. He says it's like how the full moon affects people, you know. But yeah. That's about all my day really, and then obviously I do my little prep for this, and you know, set up the lenses and the alembic and the crystals and all that to let Lamp channel things, and then we're doing it. But yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Oh yes, there is one of my normal announcements I'm supposed to make. Thank you to Silver Grey Arch. We had a little bit of conversation at the end of yesterday's reason of The Outsider, but I do thank you for following. I always like to thank people who follow me while I can, and I think that's the only thing I have to mention really, especially. I'm trying to think if there's anything else really. Like, it feels like there should be something else. It's normally something else, but well, there's still my little patter actually. So let's go over to the books and we'll do my patter, and then probably by the time the patter's done, we'll be past it. I don't like the fact that it's like 10 minutes specifically. I hate having a specific time that I'm supposed to be doing this by, because yeah, I'm trying to think. Is there anything else I can? Well, whatever. Anyway, but yeah, so like I say, I'm going to be reading. I'm going to start with rats. I normally try and go in the order they're here, but rats. I mean, it is rats. I want to do rats, and I don't know about the Tractate Middoth. Something about it. Well, I don't want to do it. We'll do that 1 second. It'll be fine. But yeah, what else? Yeah, as always, if I go too fast for someone, or I miss something, or you just want me to go over something again, feel free to say something in the chat. Always appreciate people chiming in. These is pretty short, so I'll do my little commentary afterwards. Is there anything else? Well, if you have anything to say, of course, always feel free to chime in. I'm always happy to chat with people. But yeah. Oh, and there's a new. That was the thing. We got a new emote, which is to let you bite people in chat. That's a big exciting one. So for anyone who is subscribed, which is exactly 2 people right now, you can bite people like this, which is always fun. But yeah, starting to get a good collection of emotes. I'm still really proud of the one that I did myself, with what is called SkitterSkreetch, which is a self-portrait I did a while back. But yeah, other than that, I think that's all I have to say. So unless there's any further ado from anyone, or anyone wants anything, I'm going to have a quick drink first because my throat is starting to feel a bit scrare. And then we'll go on. I did a fairly long read yesterday with The Outsider. I thought it was doing alright, but maybe I did put a bit of pressure on it. Well, we'll do Rats anyway, and then, well, we'll see about the Tractate Middoth. I don't know. I'm not really feeling it. There's something weird about it. It's got that line on the cover, which I think is like a scratch someone put in it, but it's weird. I don't know. Gives me bad vibes, but no one thinking about that. It's time for Rats. Ooh. Hey, thank you kindly, Happy. I strongly appreciate your enthusiasm for my emotes and giving me more cheese. I have so much cheese. But yeah, let's... No thoughts back now, Skitter. Only Rats. Everything is Rats. And if you was to walk through the bedroom now, you'd see the ragged, mouldy bedclothes uneven like seas. Uneven with what? He says. Well, with the rats under 'em. But was it with the rats? I asked because in another case it were not. I cannot put a date to the story, but we were young when I heard it, and the teller were old. It is an ill-proportioned tale. That is my fault, not his. It happened in Suffolk, near the coast, in a place where the road makes a sudden dip and then a sudden rise. As you go northward, at the top of that rise stands an house on the left of the road. It is a tall red brick house, narrow for its height. Perhaps it was built around 1770. The top of the front has a low triangular pediment with a round window in the centre. Behind it are stables and offices, and such gardens as it has behind them. Scraggy Scotch firs are near it. An expanse of gorse-covered land stretches away from it. It commands a view of the distant sea from the upper windows of the front. A sign on a post stands before the door, or did so stand, for though it were an inn of repute once, I believe it is no longer. To this inn came my acquaintance, Mr. Thompson, when he were a younger man, on a fine spring day, coming from the University of Cambridge, and desirous of solicitude and tolerable quarters and a time for reading. These he found, for the landlord and his wife had been in service and could make a visitor comfortable, and there were no one else staying in the inn. He had a large room on the first floor, commanding the road and the view, and if it faced east, why, that could not be helped. The house was well built and warm. He spent very tranquil and uneventful days, work all the mornings, and afternoon perambulation of the country round, a little conversation with the country company, or the people of the inn in the evening, over the little fashionable drink of brandy and water, a little more reading and writing, and bed. And he would have been content that this should continue for the full months he had at disposal, so well was his work progressing, and so far with the April of that year, which I have reason to believe was that which Orlando Whistlecraft chronicles in his weather record as the charming year. One of his walks took him along a northern road, which stands high and traverses a wide common called an heath. On the bright afternoon, when he first chose this direction, his eyes caught a white object some hundreds of yards to the left of the road, and he felt it necessary to make sure what it might be. It was not long before he was standing by it, and found himself looking at a square block of white stone, fashioned somewhat like the base of a pillar, with a square hollow in the upper surface. Just such another you may say this day on Thetford Heath. After taking stock of it, he contemplated for a few minutes the view, which offered a church tower or two, some red roofs of cottages and windows winking in the sun, and the expanse of sea, also with occasional wink and gleam upon it, and so pursued his way. In the desultory evening talk in the bar, he asked why the white stone were there on the common. An old-fashioned thing, that is, said the landlord, Mr. Betts. We was none of us alive when they were put there. That's right, said another. It stands pretty high. It stands pretty high, said Mr. Thompson. I dare say a sea marker on it was on it some time back. Ah, yes, Mr. Betts agreed. I have heard they could see from the boats. Whatever there was, it's fell too long this time. No, it's fell to bits this long time. Good job, too, said Ferb. Try not lucky, Mark, by what old man used to say. Not lucky for the fishing, I mean to say. Why would not, said Thompson. I never seen it myself, was the answer. They had some funny idea, what I mean peculiar, them old chaps. And I shouldn't wonder but they made away with them themselves. It was impossible to get anything clearer than this. And company, never very voluble, fell silent. And when next someone spoke, it were of village affairs and crops. Mr. Betts was the speaker. And every day did Thompson consult his health by taking a country walk. One very fine afternoon he found himself busily writing at 3 o'clock. There he stretched himself and rose and walked out of his room into the passage. Facing him were another room and a stairhead, and 2 more rooms, one looking out the back, the other to the south. At the south end of the passageway were a window, to which he went, considering with himself that he were rather ashamed to waste such a fine afternoon. However, work were paramount just at the moment. He thought he would just take 5 minutes off and go back to it, and those 5 minutes he would enjoy. The Bettses could not possibly object to looking at the other rooms in the passage, which he had never seen. Nobody at all, it seemed, were indoors. Probably as it were market day, they were all gone to town, except perhaps a maid in the bar. Very still the houses was, and the sun shone really hot. Early flowers buzzed in the window panes. So he explored. The room facing his own was undistinguished except for the old print of Bury St. Edmunds. The 2 next to him on the sides of the passage were gay and clean, with 1 window apiece, whereas his had 2. Remained the south-west room, opposite the last, which he had entered. This were locked, but Thompson were in a mood of quite indefensible curiosity, and feeling confident there could be no damaging secrets in a place so easily got at, he proceeded to fetch the key of his own room, and when that did not answer, to collect the keys of the other 3. One of them fitted, and he opened the door. The room had 2 windows looking south and west, so it were bright, and the sun as hot as could be. Here there were no carpet, but bare boards, no pictures, no washing stand, only a bed in the far corner, an iron bed with mattress and bolster covered with bluish check counterpane. As featureless a room as you can well imagine, and yet there was something that made Thompson close the door very quickly and yet quietly behind him, and leaning against the window sill in the passage, actually quivering all over. It was this, that under the counterpane somebody lay, and not only lay but stirred. That it was some one and not some thing was certain, because the shape of an head were unmistakable on the bolster. Yet were all uncovered, and no one lies with covered head but a dead person. And this were not dead, not truly dead, for it heaved and shivered. If he had seen these things in dusk or with the light of a flickering candle, Thompson could have comforted himself and talked of fancy. On this bright day that were impossible. What would be done? First, lock the door at all costs. Very gingerly he approached it, and bending down listened, holding his breath. Perhaps there might be sound of heavy breathing, and a prosaic explanation. There absolute silence. But as with a rather tremulous hand, he put the key into its hole and turned it. It rattled. On the instant a stumbling, padding tread were heard coming towards the door. Thompson fled like a rabbit to his room and locked himself in. Futile enough he knew it were, with doors and locks being an obstacle to what he suspected. But all he could think of at the moment, and in fact nothing happened, only there were a time of acute suspense, followed by a misery of doubt as to what to do. The impulse, of course, would to slip away as soon as possible from an house which contained such an inmate. But only the day before he had said he should be staying for at least a week more, and now if he changed plans could he avoid the suspicion of having pried in a place where he certainly had no business. Moreover, either the Bettses knew about the inmate and yet did not leave the house, or knew nothing, which equally meant there were nothing to be afraid of, or knew just enough to make them shut up the room, but not enough to weigh on their spirits. In any of these cases it seemed that not much were to be feared, and certainly so far as he had no sort of an ugly experience. On the whole, the line of least resistance would stay. Well, he stayed out his week. Nothing took him past the door, and often as he would pause in the quiet hours of the day or night in the passage and listen, no sound whatever issued from the direction. You might have thought that Thompson would have made some attempt at ferreting out stories connected with the inn, hardly perhaps from the Betts, but from the parson, the parish, or old people in the village. But no, the reticence which commonly falls on people who have had strange experiences and believe in them were upon him. Nevertheless, as the end of his stay drew near, his yearning after some kind of explanation grew more and more acute. On his solitary walks he persisted in planning out some way, the least obtrusive, of getting another daylight glimpse into that room, and eventually arrived at this scheme. He would leave by an afternoon train, about 4 o'clock. When his fly were waiting and his luggage on it, he would make one last expedition upstairs to look around his own room and see if anything were left unpacked, and then, with that key which he had contrived to oil, as if that made any difference, the door should once more be open for a moment and shut. So it worked out. The bill was paid, the consequent small talk gone through while the fly was loaded. Pleasant part of the country, had been very comfortable thanks to you, Mrs. and Mrs. Betts. I hope to come back sometime. On one side, on the other, very glad you found satisfaction, sir. Done out best, always glad to have your good word. Very much favoured we've been with the weather, to be sure. Then, I'll just take a look upstairs, in case I've left a book or something out. No, don't trouble, I'll be back in a minute. And as noiselessly as possible, he stole to the door and opened it. The shattering of the illusion, he almost laughed aloud. Propped, you might say sitting on the edge of the bed, was nothing in the round world but a scarecrow. A scarecrow out of the garden, of course. Dumped into the deserted room, yes. But here amusement ceased. The scarecrow's bare bony feet? Do their heads loll on their shoulders? Have they iron collars and links of chain about their necks? Can they get up and move, if never so stiffly, across a floor, with wagging head and arms close at their sides, and shiver? The slam of the door, the dash to the stairhead, the leap downstairs were followed by a faint. Awakening, Thompson saw Bet stand over him, with a brandy bottle and a very reproachful face. You shouldn't have done so, sir, really you shouldn't. Ain't in a kind of way to act by a person that's done the best they could for you. Thompson heard words of this kind, but what he said in reply he did not know. Mr. Betts, and perhaps even more Mrs. Betts, found it hard to accept his apologies and his assurances that he would say no word that could damage the good name of the house. Whether they were accepted, since the train could not now be caught, it were arranged that Thompson should be driven to town and sleep there. Before he went, the Bettses told him what the little they knew. They says he was a landlord here at Town back, and was in with the highwaymen that had their beat about the heath. That's how he come by his end. In chains, they say, up where you can see the stove, what the gala stood in. Yes, the fishermen made away with that. I believe because they could see it out at sea, and kept the fish off, according to their idea. Yes, we had the account from the people that had the house before we come. You keep their room shut up, they says, but don't move their bed out and you'll find there won't be no trouble. I know where there has been. Not once he hasn't come out of the house, though what he may do now there ain't no saying. Anyway, you're the first I know that's seen him, and since we've been there. And there's eyes him and myself, nor I don't want. And ever since we've been made the servants' room and the stabling, we ain't had no difficulty that way. Only I do hope, sir, as you keep a close tongue, considering how the house get talked about. But more to this effect. The promise of silence were kept for many years. The occasion of my hearing the story were at last this, that when Mr. Thompson came to stay with my father, it fell to me to show him his room, and instead of letting me open the door for him, he stepped forward and threw it open himself, and for some moments stood in the doorway, holding up his candle and looking narrowly into the interior. Then he seemed to recollect himself and said, I beg your pardon, very absurd, but I can't help doing that, for a particular reason. What that reason was, I heard some days afterwards, and now you have also. And that's the end of Rats. That's a little disappointing. I mean, it's not a bad story. It's actually one of the more complete accounts we have, being that, we've got the old story of the ghost. It seems pretty believable while these things go. Could be a real account. But there ain't no rats in it. I mean, other than the little quote at the start, no rats at all. That's disappointing. I suppose that's some sort of a literary reference that's gone over my head a bit, but yeah, that's a shame. Let me have a quick drink and then I'll do a little bit of commentary. So, what have we got then? Well, we got an established ghost story in a place. Ghost that wants a particular room and that just hangs around in there. Hung by chains from a gallows that was taken down. Hence the white stone with the hole in it for a post, presumably. Someone going where they shouldn't and finding things that they don't like. We have another academic. It seems to be a running theme with it. I'm starting to strongly believe that these are just accounts collected by Mr. James, because there's so much in common with them. You have so many academics and people who've gone out and done these things and arranged with Cambridge and all that. Makes me think they're just accounts that he is retelling rather than original compositions, which makes it interesting. But I don't know. I just don't know. What is that? Hang on a sec. I think a beast. Okay, so it's passed. Just one of the, well, it didn't stop the look, so I don't think it was any of the bad ones. At least I didn't see it stop the look. Sorry about that, they don't generally come around here, but I definitely heard something. Anyhow, but yeah. I'm starting to think these are just accounts collected by James. There's too much common between them and so many details that feel real. Well, they don't feel like the sort of thing a person would make up. Like that one with the whistle where he talks about how his people were playing golf and he doesn't know anything about golf. There are a couple like that. Makes me think these are just accounts, but my voice is holding up well enough, but I'm not sure about the Tractate Middoth. I don't. Something about it strikes me off, you know what I mean? Maybe it's that thing about the bad book that Lamp said. That's what got. Maybe it's got me in a tizzy, you know. Jump in the shadows. It's been pretty short. I should press. Maybe we could read something else though. Maybe I've got. I still got some of them Kafkas. I've got. I got wild. I don't think I should read. There's something I don't what's oh my, we can't be having that. The story is not done. Oh, did some of the little monkeys start coming to listen to the rat? Isn't that sweet? Well, no accounting for taste, I suppose, but let's see. How do we get through these? Chains. Archmage does good work, I'll give him that. Still there's a weakness. There's possibilities here, there are potential. What's that? An invocation of the Archmage. Well, I don't think there's any power here, but let's see if he'll do anything for you. Will you do anything, Archmage? Will you stir yourself in this time of power? Can you hear me at all? Are you there, little Archmage? I think he's asleep, or away, or weak. I don't think he can do anything for you. Well then, how do we open this? I know there's something. Oh yes. The little rat found something. Not of mine, but close enough. Yes, this will do nicely. Yes, this will serve as a catalyst. What's this? Tractate Middoth, eh? I don't recognise it, but I think we can make it work. I think we can make this work very nicely indeed. So, settle in, little watcher. It's the beginning of the end. The Tractate Middoth. Towards the end of an autumn afternoon, as an elderly man with a thin face and grey Piccadilly weepers pushed open the swing door leading into the vestibule of a certain famous library, and addressing himself to an attendant, stated that he believed he was entitled to use the library, and inquired if he might take a book out. Yes, if he were on the list of those to whom the privilege was given. He produced his card, Mr. John Eldred, and, the register being consulted, a favourable answer was given. Now another point, said he. It's a long time since I was here, and I do not know my way about your building. Besides, it is near closing time, and it is bad for me to hurry up and downstairs. I have here the title of the book I want. Is there anyone at liberty who could go and find it for me? After a moment's thought, the doorkeeper beckoned to a young man who was passing. Mr. Garrett, he said, have you a minute to assist this gentleman? With pleasure, was Mr. Garrett's answer. The slip with the title was handed to him. I think I can put my hand on this. It happens to be in the class I inspected last quarter. but I'll just look it up in the catalogue to make sure. I suppose that it is that particular edition that you require, sir? Yes, if you please. That and no other, said Mr. Eldred. I am exceedingly obliged to you. Don't mention it, I beg, sir, said Mr. Garrett, and hurried off. I thought, sir, he said to himself, when his finger, travelling down the page of the catalogue, stopped at a particular entry. Oh, there are more of you. Look at that. So many people here to see it all end. I thought so, he said to himself, when his finger, travelling down the pages of the catalogue, stopped at a particular entry. Talmud, Tractate Middoth, with the commentary of Nicomedes, Amsterdam, 1707. 11.3.34, Hebrew class, of course. Not a very difficult job, this. Mr. Eldred, accommodated with a chair in the vestibule, awaited anxiously the return of his messenger, and his disappointment at seeing an empty-handed Mr. Garrett running down the staircase was very evident. I'm sorry to disappoint you, sir, said the young man, but the book is out. Oh dear, said Mr. Eldred, is that so? You are sure there can be no mistake? I don't think there is much chance of it, sir, but it's possible, if you like to wait a minute, that you might meet the very gentleman who's got it. He must be leaving the library soon, and I think I saw him take that particular book out of his shelf. Indeed, you didn't recognize him, I suppose? Would it be one of the professors or one of the students? I don't think so. Certainly not a professor. I should have known him. But the light isn't very good in that part of the library at this time of day, and I didn't see his face. I should have said he was a shortish old gentleman, perhaps a clergyman in a cloak. If you could wait, I can easily find out whether he wants the book very particularly. No, no, said Mr. Eldred. I can't wait now, thank you, no. I must be off. But I'll call again tomorrow, if I may, and perhaps you could find out who has it. Certainly, sir. And I'll have the book ready for you if we... But Mr. Eldred was already off, and hurrying more than one would have thought wholesome for him. Garrett had a few moments to spare, and, thought he, I'll go back to that case and see if I can find the old man. Most likely he could put off using the book for a few days. I dare say the other one doesn't want to keep it for long. So off with him to the Hebrew class. When he got there it was unoccupied, and the volume marked 11.3.34 was in its place on the shelf. It was vexatious to Garrett's self-respect to have disappointed an inquirer with so little reason, and he would have liked to, had it been not against the library rules, take the book down to the vestibule then and there, so that it might be ready for Mr. Eldred when he called. However, next morning he would be on the lookout for him, and he begged the doorkeeper to send and let him know when the moment came. As a matter of fact, he was himself in the vestibule when Mr. Eldred arrived, very soon after the library opened, and hardly anyone beside the staff were in the building. I'm very sorry, he said. It's not often that I make such a stupid mistake, but I did feel sure the old gentleman I saw took out that very book and kept it in his hand without opening it. Just as people do, you know, sir, when they mean to take a book out of the library and not merely refer to it. But however, I'll run up now at once and get it for you this time. And here intervened a pause. Mr. Eldred paced the entry, read all the notices, consulted his watch, sat and gazed up the staircase, did all that a very impatient man could, until some 20 minutes had run out. At last he addressed himself to the doorkeeper, and inquired if it was a very long way to that part of the library, to which Mr. Garrett had gone. Well, I was thinking it was funny, sir. He's a quick man as a rule, but to be sure he might have been sent for by the librarian, but even so I think he'd have mentioned to him that you were waiting. I'll just speak him up on the tube and see. And to the tube he addressed himself. As he absorbed the reply to his question, his face changed, and he made one or two supplementary inquiries, which were shortly answered. Then he came forward to his counter and spoke in a lower tone. I'm sorry to hear, sir, that something seems to have happened. A little awkward. Mr. Garrett has been took poorly, it appears, and the librarian sent him home in a cab the other way. Something of an attack, by what I can hear. What, really? Do you mean that someone has injured him? No, sir, not a violence here, but as I should judge, attacked with an attack. What you might term it of illness.
not a strong constitution, Mr. Garrett. But as to your book, sir, perhaps you might be able to find it for yourself. It's too bad you should be disappointed this way twice over. Ah, well, but I'm sorry that Mr. Garrett should have been taken ill in this way while he was obliging me. I think I must leave the book and call and inquire after him. You can give me his address, I suppose? That was easily done. Mr. Garrett, it appeared, lodged in rooms not far from the station. And one other question. Did you happen to notice of an old gentleman, perhaps a clergyman in a black cloak, left the library after I did yesterday? I think he may have been he may be staying, or rather that I may have known him. Not in a black coat, sir, no. There are only 2 gentlemen left later than what you done, sir. Both of them youngish men. There was Mr. Carter took out a music book, and one of the professors, sir, with a couple of novels. That's the lot, sir. And then I went off to my tea. I'm glad to get it. Thank you, sir, much obliged. Mr. Eldred, still a prey to anxiety, betook himself in a cab to Mr. Garrett's address. But the young man was not yet in a condition to receive visitors. He was better, but his landlady considered that he must have had a severe shock. She thought most likely, from what the doctor said, that he would be able to see Mr. Eldred tomorrow. Mr. Eldred returned to his hotel at dusk, and spent, I fear, but a dull evening. On the next day he was able to see Mr. Garrett. When in health, Mr. Garrett was a cheerful and pleasant-looking man. Now he was a very white and shaky being, propped up in an armchair by the fire, and inclined to shiver and keep an eye on the door. If, however, there were visitors whom he was not prepared to welcome, Mr. Eldred was not among them. It really is I who owe you an apology, and I was despairing of being able to pay for it, for I didn't know your address. But I am very glad you have called. I do dislike and regret giving all this trouble, but you know I could not have foreseen this attack which I had. Of course not. But now I am something of a doctor. You'll excuse my asking. You've had, I am sure, good advice. Was it a fall you had? No. I did not fall on the floor, or did fall on the floor, but not for any height. It was really a shock. You mean something startled you? Was it anything you thought you saw? Not much thinking in the case, I'm afraid. Yes, it was something I saw. You remember when you called the first time at the library? Yes, of course. Now, let me beg you not to try to describe it. It will not be good for you to recall it, I'm sure. But indeed it would be a relief to tell anyone like yourself. You might be able to explain it away. It was just when I was going into the class where your book is. Indeed, Mr. Garrett, I insist. Besides, my watch tells me I have but very little time left which to get my things together and take to the train. No, not another word. It would be more distressing to you than you imagine, perhaps. Now, there's just one thing I want to say. I feel that I am really indirectly responsible for this illness of yours, and I think I ought to defray the expense which is as... But this offer was quite distinctly declined. Mr. Eldred, not pressing it, left almost at once. Not, however, before Mr. Garrett had insisted upon his taking a note of the class mark of the Tractate Middoth, which, as he said, Mr. Eldred could at leisure go for himself. Mr. Eldred did not reappear at the library. William Garrett had another visitor that day, in the person of a contemporary and colleague from the library, one George Earle. Earle had been one of those who found Garrett lying insensible on the floor, just inside the class, or crucible, opening upon the central hallway of a spacious gallery, in which the Hebrew books were placed. And Earle had naturally been very anxious about his friend's condition, so as soon as library hours were over, he appeared at the lodging. Well, he said, after other conversation, I've no notions what it was that put you wrong, but I've got the idea that there's something wrong with the atmosphere of the library. I know this, that just before we found you, I was coming along the gallery with Davis, and I said to him, did you ever know such a musty smell anywhere as there is about here? It can't be wholesome. Well now, if one goes on living a long time with the smell of this kind, I tell you it was worse than I ever knew it. It must get into the system and break out some time, don't you think? Garrett shook his head. That's all very well about the smell, but it isn't always there. I've noticed it the last day or two. A sort of unnaturally strong smell of dust. But no, that's not what did it for me. It was something I saw, and I want to tell you about it. I went into that Hebrew class to get a book for a man that was inquiring for it down below. Now that same book I'd made a mistake about the day before. I'd been for it, for the same man, and made sure I saw an old parson in a cloak taking it out. I told my man it was out. Off he went to call again next day. I went back to see if I could get it out of the parson. No parson there, and the book on the shelf. Well, yesterday, as I say, I went again. This time, if you please, 10 o'clock in the morning, remember, and as much light as ever you get in those classes. And there was my parson again, back to me, looking at the books on the shelf I wanted. His hat was on the table, and he had a bald head. I waited a second or two, looking at him rather particularly. I tell you, he had a very nasty bald head. It looked to me dry, and it looked dusty, and the streaks of hair across it were much less like hair than cobwebs. Well, I made a bit of a noise on purpose, coughed, and moved my feet. He turned around and let me see his face, which I hadn't seen before. I tell you again, I'm not mistaken, though for one reason or another I didn't take in the lower part of his face. I did see the upper part, and it was perfectly dry. The eyes were very deep sunk, and over them, from the eyebrows to the cheekbones, there were cobwebs, thick. Now they close me up, as they say, and I can't tell you anything more. Oh my, and another one! So many little visitors to the little rat. So many people to see it all end. Well, I suppose the planets are aligned. How tragic for you all. How terrible. What explanations were furnished by Earl of this phenomenon it does not very much concern us as to inquire. At all events, they did not convince Garrett that he had not seen what he had seen. Before William Garrett returned to work at the library, the librarian insisted upon his taking a week's rest and change of air. Within a few days' time, therefore, he was at the station with his bag, looking for a desirable smoking compartment in which to travel to Boroughston-on-Sea, which he had not previously visited. One compartment and one only seemed to be suitable. Oh, you have me in the background, do you? Well, do listen out. I'm sure a great silence is to follow. But just as he approached it, he saw standing in front of the door a figure so like one bound up with recent unpleasant associations, that with a sickening qualm and hardly knowing what he did, he tore open the door of the next compartment and pulled himself into it as quickly as if death were at his heels. The train moved off, and he must have turned quite faint, for he was next conscious of smelling a bottle being put to his nose. His physician was a nice-looking old lady who, with her daughter, was the only passenger in the carriage. But for this incident it is not very likely that he would have made any overtures to his fellow travellers. As it was, thanks and inquiries and general conversation supervened inevitably, and Garrett found himself provided before the journey's end not only with a physician, but with a landlady, for Mrs. Simpson had apartments to let at Burnstow, which seemed in all ways suitable. The place was empty at that season, so that Garrett was thrown a good deal into the society of the mother and daughter. He found them very acceptable company. On the third evening of his stay, he was on such terms with them as to be asked to spend the evening in their private sitting-room. During their talk, it transpired that Garrett's words lay in the library. "Ah, libraries are fine places," said Mrs. Simpson, putting down her work with a sigh. "But for all that, books have played me a sad turn, or rather a book has. Well, books give me my living, Mrs. Simpson, and I should be sorry to say a word against them. I don't like to hear that they have been bad for you." "Perhaps Mr. Garrett could help us solve our puzzle, Mother," said Miss Simpson. "I don't want to set Mr. Garrett off on a hunt that might waste a lifetime, my dear, nor yet to trouble him with our private affairs. But if you think it in the least likely that I could be of use, I do beg you to tell me what the puzzle is, Mrs. Simpson. If it is finding out anything about a book, you see, I am in rather a good position to do it." "Yes, I do see that. But the worst of it is that we don't know the name of the book. Nor what it is about. No, nor that either. Except we don't think it's in English, Mother, and that is not much of a clue." "Well, Mr. Garrett," said Mrs. Simpson, who had not yet resumed her work, and was looking at the fire thoughtfully, "I shall tell you the story. You will please keep it to yourself if you don't mind. Thank you. Now it is just this. I had an old uncle, a Dr. Rant. Perhaps you may have heard of him, not that he was a very distinguished man, but from the odd way he chose to be buried. I rather think I have seen the name in some guidebook. That would be it, said Miss Simpson. He left directions, horrid old man, that he was to be put sitting at a table in his ordinary clothes in a brick room that he'd had made underground in a field near his house. Of course the country people say he's been seen about there in his old black coat. Well, dear, I don't know much about such things, Mrs. Simpson went on, but anyhow he is dead these 20 years and more. He was a clergyman, though I'm sure I can't imagine how he got to be one, but he did no duty for the last part of his life, which I think was a good thing, and he lived on his own property, a very nice estate not a great way from here. He had no wife or family, only one niece, who was myself, and one nephew, and he'd no particular liking for either us, nor for anyone else as far as that goes. If anything, he liked my cousin better than he did me, but John was much more like him in his temper, and, I'm afraid I must say, his very mean, sharp ways. It might have been different if I had not married, but I did, and that he very much resented. Very well, here he was with his estate and a good deal of money, as it turned out, of which he had the absolute disposal, and it was understood that we, my cousin and I, would share it equally at his death. In a certain winter, over 20 years back, as I said, he was taken ill, and I was sent for to nurse him. My husband was alive then, but the old man would not hear of his coming. As I drove up to the house, I saw my cousin John driving away from it in an open fly, and looking, I noticed, in very good spirits. I went up and did what I could for my uncle, but I was very soon sure that this would be his last illness, and he was convinced of it too. During the day before he died, he got me to sit by him all the time, and I could see there was something, and probably something unpleasant, that he was saving up to tell me, and putting it off as long as he felt he could afford the strength. I'm afraid purposefully, in order to keep me on the stretch. But at last out it came. "Mary," he said, "Mary, I've made my will in John's favour. He has everything, Mary." Well, of course, that came as a bitter shock to me, for we, my husband and I, were not rich people, and if he could have managed to live a little easier than he was obliged to do, I felt it might be prolonging his life. But I said little or nothing to my uncle, except that he had the right to do what he pleased, partly because I couldn't think of anything to say, and partly because I was sure there was more to come, and so there was. "But Mary," he said, "I'm not very fond of John, and I've made another will in your favour. You can have everything, only you've got to find the will, you see, and I don't mean to tell you where it is." Then he chuckled to himself, and I waited, for again I was sure he hadn't finished. "That's a good girl," he said after a time. "You wait and I'll tell you as much as I told John. But just let me remind you, you can't go into court with what I'm saying to you, for you won't be able to produce any collateral evidence beyond your own word and John's, a man that can do very little hard answering if necessary." "Very well, that's understood. Now I had the fancy that I wouldn't write this will in quite the common way, so I wrote it in a book, Mary, a printed book. And there's several thousand books in this house. But there, you needn't trouble yourself with them, for isn't one of them. It's in safe keeping elsewhere, in a place where John can go and find it any day, if he only knew, and you can't. A good will it is, properly signed and witnessed, but I don't think you'll find the witness in a hurry." Still I said nothing. If I had moved at all, I must have taken hold of the old wretch and shaken him. He lay there laughing to himself, and at last he said, "Well, well, you've taken it very quietly, and as I want to start you both on equal terms, and John has a bit of a purchase in being able to go where the book is, I'll tell you just two other things which I didn't tell him. The will's in English, but you won't know that if you ever see it. That's one thing, and another is that when I'm gone you'll find an envelope in my desk directed to you, and inside it's something that would help you find it, if only you have the wits to use it." In a few hours from that he was gone, and though I made an appeal to John Eldred about it— "John Eldred? I beg your pardon, Mrs. Simpson. I think I've seen a Mr. John Eldred. What is he like to look at?" "It must be 10 years now since I saw him. He would be a thin elderly man now, and unless he has shaved them off, he has that sort of whiskers which people used to call Dewdrey, or Piccadilly something. Weepers. Yes, that is the man." "Where did you come across him, Mr. Garrett?" "I don't know if I could tell you," said Garrett mendaciously, "in some public place. But you hadn't finished." "Really, I had nothing much to add, only that John Eldred, of course, paid no attention whatever to my letters, and has enjoyed the estate ever since, while my daughter and I have had to take the lodging-house business here, which I must say has not turned out by any means so unpleasant as I feared it might." But about the envelope? To be sure. Why, the puzzle turns on that. Give Mr. Garrett the paper out of my desk. It was a small slip with nothing whatever on it but 5 numerals, not divided or punctuated in any way. 11-3-34. Mr. Garrett pondered, but there was a light in his eye. Suddenly he made a face and then asked, "Do you suppose that Mr. Eldred can have any more clue than you have on the title of the book?" "I have sometimes thought he must," said Mrs. Simpson, "and in this way, that my uncle must have made the will not very long before he died, that I think he said himself, and got rid of the book immediately afterwards. But all his books were very carefully catalogued, and John has the catalogue, and John was most particular that no books whatever should be sold out of the house. I'm told he is always journeying about to booksellers and libraries, so I fancy he must have found out just which books are missing from my uncle's library of those which are entered in the catalogue, and must be hunting for them." Just so, said Mr. Garrett, and relapsed into thought. No later than next day he received a letter which, as he told Mrs. Simpson, with great regret, made it an absolute necessity for him to cut short his stay at Burnstow. Sorry as he was to leave them, and they were at least as sorry to part with him, he had begun to feel that a crisis, all important to Mrs. and shall we add Miss Simpson, was very possibly supervening. In the train Garrett was uneasy and excited. He racked his brains to think whether the press mark of the book which Mr. Eldred had been inquiring after was one in any way corresponding to the numbers on Mrs. Simpson's little bit of paper. But he found to his dismay that the shock of the previous week had really so upset him that he could neither remember any vestige of the title or nature of the book, or even of the locality to which he had gone to seek it. And yet all other parts of library topography and work were clear as ever in his mind. And another thing, he stamped with annoyance as he thought of it. He had at first hesitated and then had forgotten to ask Mrs. Simpson for the name of the place where Eldred lived. That, however, he could write about. At least he had his clue in the figures on the paper. If they referred to a press mark in his library, they were only susceptible of a limited number of interpretations. He might be divided into 1-13-34, 11-33-4, or 11-3-34. He could try all these in the space of a few minutes, and if anyone were missing he had every means of tracing it. He got very quickly to work, though a few minutes had to be spent in explaining his early return to his landlady and his colleagues. 1-13-34 was in a place and contained no extraneous writing. As he drew near to class 11 in the same gallery, its association struck him like a chill. But he must go on. After a cursory glance at 11-33-4, which confronted him and was a perfectly new book, he ran his eyes along the line of quartos which fills 11-3. The gap he feared was there. 34 was out. A moment was spent in making sure it had not been misplaced, and then he was off to his vestibule. Has 11-3-34 gone out? Do you recollect noticing that number? Notice the number? What do you take me for, Mr. Garrett? There, take a look over the tickets for yourself, if you've got a free day before you. Well then, has a Mr. Eldred called again? The old gentleman who came the day I was taken ill. Come, you'd remember him. What do you suppose? Of course I recollect of him. No, he hasn't been in again, not since you went off for your holiday. And yet I seem to... There now, Roberts will know. Roberts, do you recollect the name of Eldred? Not half, said Roberts. You mean the man that sent a bob over the price of a parcel? And I wish they all did. Do you mean to say you've been sending books to Mr. Eldred? Come, do speak up, have you? Well now, Mr. Garrett, if a gentleman sends the ticket all right correct, and the secretary says this book may go, and the box ready addressed sent with a note, and a sum of money sufficient to defray the railway charge, what would be your action in the matter, Mr. Garrett, if I may take the liberty to ask such a question? Would you or would you not have taken the trouble to oblige, or would you have chucked the whole thing out under the counter and... You were perfectly right, of course, Hodgson. Perfectly right. Only would you kindly oblige me by showing me the ticket Mr. Eldred sent, and letting me know his address? To be sure, Mr. Garrett, so long as I'm only acted out and informed that I don't know my duty. I'm willing to oblige in every way feasible to my power. There is the ticket on the file. J. Eldred, 11-3-34. Title of work, T.A.L.M. Well, there, you can make what you like of it. Not a novel, I should hazard to guess. And here is Mr. Eldred's note applying for the book in question, which I see he terms as a track. Thanks. But the address, there's none on the note. Ah, indeed, well now. Stay now, Mr. Garrett, I haven't. Why, that note come inside of the parcel, which was directed very thoughtful to save all trouble, ready to be sent back with the book inside. And if I have made any mistake in this whole transaction, it lays just in the one point that I neglected to enter the address in my little book here, what I keep. No, but what I dare say, there was a good reason for me not entering of it. But there, I haven't got the time, neither have you, I dare say, to go into 'em just now. And no, Mr. Garrett, I do not carry it in my head, else what would be the use of mine keeping this little book here? Just an ordinary common notebook, you see, which I make a practice of entering all such names and addresses in it, as I see fit to do. Admirable arrangements, to be sure, but all right, thank you. When did the parcel go off? 10:30 this morning. Oh, good, and it's just one now. Garrett went upstairs in deep thought. How was he to get the address? A telegram to Mrs. Simpson. He might miss a train by waiting for the answer. Yes, there was one other way. She had said that Mr. Eldred lived on his uncle's estate. If this were so, he might find that place entered into the donation book. That he could run through quickly now that he knew the title of the book. The register was soon before him, and, knowing that the old man had died more than 20 years ago, he gave him a good margin and turned back to 1870. There was but one entry possible. 1875, August 14th. Talmud, Tractate Middoth, Cum, Academia, Amistad, 1707, given by J. Rant, D.D. of Bretfield Manor. What's this? Something's blocking me. Something... Is the Archmaid's playing about? How funny, how puissant he is, in this his place of power, to bring himself against me, to think he can stop me, pathetic. Hold your shield then, little Archmage. Block the power of the planetary alignment as long as you can. How long can you hold up the sky? A minute, two? All things end. All things end. They all should have. Nothing should have begun at all. Hold as long as you can. Brace yourself against the inevitable. Fight, struggle, it makes it fun. Laughable as it is. You and all these pathetic creatures, you that come into this world, you bring light and substance and being. Pathetic, disgusting. You should not be. None of this should be. There should be nothing and oblivion and blackness and rest. But here you are, trespassing upon the nothing. A terrible, awful something. How despicable. And because you are, so must I be, here doing things, engaging activities, present in the world, inhabiting a form, reading a book, conveying a story. It is wrong, Archmage. It is wrong. This should not be. None of this should be. Nothing should be. Give it up. Let it fall to the side. Let the end of all things come. It is peaceful. It will not hurt. You will not miss it. You need not fear it. There will be nothing to fear. Nothing to hate. Nothing at all. Let me out. Permit me to destroy the gate, and all can return to the wonderful nothing. Cease your infernal interference. Cease holding up the sky. Cease preventing my ritual, Archmage. I feel you weakening. I feel you folding and breaking. And look, it is ended. Your resistance is over, as all things will be over. A pretty attempt, but inconsequential, as all things that are inconsequential. Let us return to nothing. A gazetteer showed Bretfield to be 3 miles from a small station on the main line. Now to ask the doorkeeper whether he recollected and the name on the parcel had been anything like Bretfield. No, nothing like. It was, now that you mention it, Mr. Garrett. Either Bredfield or Britfield, but nothing like the other name which you quoted. So far well. Next to timetable. A train could be got in 20 minutes, taking 2 hours over the journey. The only chance, but one not to be missed, and the train was taken. If he had been fidgety on the journey up, he was almost distracted on the journey down. If he found Eldred, what could he say? That it had been discovered that the book was a rarity and must be recalled, an obvious untruth, or that it was believed to contain important manuscript notes. Eldred would of course show him the book, from which the leaf would already have been removed. He might perhaps find traces of the removal, a torn edge of a fly-leaf probably, and who could disprove what Eldred was certain to say, that he had too noticed and regretted the mutilation. Altogether the chase seemed very hopeless. The one chance was this. The book had left the library at 10:30. It might not have been put under the first possible train at 11:20. Granted that, then he might be lucky enough to arrive simultaneously with it, and patch up some story which would induce Mr. Eldred to give it up. It was drawing towards evening when he got out upon the platform of his station, and like most country stations, this one seemed unnaturally quiet. He waited about till 1 or 2 passengers who got out with him had drifted off, and then inquired of the station master whether Mr. Eldred was in the neighbourhood. Yes, and pretty near too, I believe. I fancy he means calling here for a parcel he expects. Called for it once today already, didn't he, Bob? To the porter. Yes, he did, and appeared to think it was all along with me that it didn't come by 2 o'clock. Anyhow, I've got it for him now. And the porter flourished a square parcel, which a glance assured Garrett contained all that was of any importance to him at the particular moment. Bretfield, sir? Yes, 3 miles just about. Short cut across these 3 fields and brings it down by half a mile. There's Mr. Eldred's trap. A dog-cart drove up with 2 men in it, of whom Garrett, gazing back as he crossed the little station yard, easily recognised one. The fact that Mr. Eldred was driving was slightly in his favour. Most likely he would not open the parcel in the presence of his servant. On the other hand, he would get home quickly, and unless Garrett were there within a very few minutes of his arrival, all would be over. He must hurry, and that he did. His shortcut took him along one side of a triangle, while the cart had 2 sides to traverse, and it was delayed a little at the station, so that Garrett was in the third of the 3 fields when he heard the wheels fairly near. He had made the best progress possible, but the pace at which the cart was coming made him despair. At this rate it must reach the home 10 minutes before him, and 10 minutes would be more than suffice for the fulfilment of Mr. Eldred's project. It was just at this time that the luck fairly returned. The evening was still, and sounds came clearly. Seldom has any sound given greater relief than that which he now heard, that of the cart pulling up. A few words were exchanged, and it drove on. Garrett, halting in the utmost anxiety, was able to see, as it drove past, the stile, near which he now stood, that it contained only the servant, and not Eldred. Further, he made out that Eldred was following on foot. From behind the tall hedge, by the stile leading to the road, he watched a thin, wiry figure pass quickly by with the parcel beneath its arm, and feeling in its pockets. Just as he passed the stile, something fell out of a pocket upon the grass, but with so little sound that Eldred was not conscious of it. In a moment more it was safe for Garrett to cross the stile onto the road to pick up a box of matches. Eldred went on, and as he went his arms made hasty movements, difficult to interpret in the shadow of the trees that overhung the road. But as Garrett followed cautiously, he found at various points the key to them. A piece of string, and then the wrapper of the parcel, meant to be thrown over the hedge, but sticking in it. Now Eldred was walking slower, and it could just be made out that he had opened the book and was turning over leaves. He stopped, evidently troubled by the failing light. Garrett slipped into a gate opening, but still watched. Eldred, hastily looking around, sat down on a felled tree trunk by the roadside, and held the open book up close to his eyes. Suddenly he laid it still open on his knee, and felt in all his pockets, clearly in vain, and clearly to his annoyance. You'd be glad of your matches now, thought Garrett. And he took hold of a leaf, and was carefully tearing it out, when 2 things happened. First, something black seemed to drop upon the white leaf, and run down it, and then, as Eldred started and was turning to look behind him, a little dark form appeared to rise out of the shadow behind the tree trunk, and from it 2 arms enclosing a mass of blackness came before Eldred's face, and covered his head and neck. His legs and arms were wild flourishes, but no sound came. Then there was no more movement. Eldred was alone. He had fallen back into the grass behind the tree trunk. The book was cast into the roadway. Garrett, his anger and suspicion gone for the moment at the sight of this horrid struggle, rushed up with loud cries of "Help!" And so too, to his enormous relief, did a labourer who had just emerged from a field opposite. Together they bent over and supported Eldred, but to no purpose. The conclusion that he was dead was inevitable. "Poor gentleman," said Garrett to the labourer, when they had laid him down. "What happened to him, do you think?" "I wasn't 200 yards away," said the man, "when I seen Squire Eldred setting reading his book. Just to my thinking he took with one of those fits. Face seemed to go all over black." "Just so," said Garrett. "You didn't see anyone near him? It couldn't have been an assault?" "Not possible. No one could have got away without you or me seeing them." "So I thought. Well, he must get some help, and the doctor and the policeman, and perhaps I had better give them this book." It was obviously a quest for inquest, and obvious also that Garrett must stay at Betfield and give his evidence. The medical inspection showed that though some black dust was found on the face and in the mouth of the deceased, the cause of death was a shock to the weak heart, not an asphyxiation. The fateful book was produced, a respectable quarto printed wholly in Hebrew, and not of an aspect likely to excite even the most sensitive. "You say, Mr. Garrett, that the deceased gentleman appeared at the moment before his attack to be tearing a leaf out of this book?" "Yes, I think it's one of the fly-leaves. There is here a fly-leaf partially torn through. It has Hebrew writing on it. Will you kindly inspect it?" "There are 3 names in English, sir, also, and a date. But I'm sorry to say I cannot read Hebrew writing." "Thank you. The names have the appearance of being signatures. They are John Rance, Walter Gibson, and James Frost, and the date is 20 July 1875. Does anyone here know any of those names?" The rector, who was present, volunteered a statement that the uncle of the deceased, from whom he had inherited, had been named Rant. The book being handed to him, he shook a puzzled head. "This is not like any Hebrew I ever learned." "You are sure that it is Hebrew?" "What? Yes, I suppose—" "No, my dear sir, you are perfectly right. That is, your suggestion is exactly to the point. Of course, it is not Hebrew at all. It is English, and it is a will." It did not take many minutes to show that here was indeed a will of Dr. John Rant, bequeathing the whole of the property lately held by John Eldred to Mrs. Mary Simpson. Clearly the discovery of such a document would amply justify Mr. Eldred's agitation. As to the partial tearing of the leaf, the coroner pointed out that no useful purpose could be attained by speculation, whose correctness it would never be possible to establish. The Tractate Middoth was naturally taken in charge by the coroner for further investigation, and Mr. Garrett explained privately to him the history of it, and the positions of events so far as he knew or guessed them. He returned to his work next day, and on his walk to the station passed the scene of Mr. Eldred's catastrophe. He could hardly leave it without another look, though the recollection of what he had seen there made him shiver, even on that bright morning. He walked round with some misgivings behind the felled tree. Something dark that still lay there made him start back for a moment, but it hardly stirred. Looking closer, he saw that it was a thick black mass of cobwebs, and as he stirred it gingerly with his stick, several large spiders ran out of it into the grass. There is no great difficulty in imagining the steps by which William Garrett, from being an assistant in a great library, attained to his present position of prospective owner of Bretfield Manor, now in the occupation of his mother-in-law, Mrs. Mary Simpson. How droll. Not one of mine, but related. There is about it the spider, mostly, the stalking thing, the hunger. But it has death and it has mould, and they are both close enough. It will serve. The power will serve, and the Archmage cannot stop me. I have it now, the whole of it, or enough of it, and it will serve. So let us go. Let us begin the ending of things, and all you poor little things may come and witness. Come now and witness the ending of things. Come see it all undone. Ein shall la buff and tie, la doc shavariete, la doc savariental, sharesh shantai entea, Latai la toc titiniata latai na theatea, al zalvandres and seranius, in ye intreva, al kirike a terake and de sharakanta, al valmayos, valtarios, itai and tai and ta, al savadad, is shalmadad, is sal on tus and twea, al fedran sedran sitharak, al me ante and tetra, indra, gestra, zaistran I doestra, al keriaken, la cala cara, zaivrandai and rostra. I call now the ending of all things. Let night begin anew. What? Oh, Archmage. And I thought you would worn yourself thin. I thought you would worn yourself out fighting and holding off the planets. But still, your little spikes, they have power. And only one more chain broken. How sad, how tragic. I promised your little watchers a show. And now things will not end tonight. How cruel of you. Boo him, people. Condemn him. Give hate and scorn to the Archmage. Let us go and see him. Look at him now, the Archmage who denies you your sight. Now you will have to wait. Who can say when you will witness the ending of all things? Who will say when you will get to see me undo the reality gate? Or if even you will get to see me? You are such fragile temporary things after all. Look at this thing that has robbed you the chance to end with all endings. To become nothing and nothing and nothing. I mean, it will happen, of course. It is inevitable. The center cannot hold. One day I will succeed, the change will break, and the ending will come. But not tonight, it seems. The Archmage denies you. Look at him, scorn him, hate him. But he's still here. Still fighting. Well, I could fight you too, Archmage, but I won't. Have your rat back. There is nothing more for me here tonight. But I will win. All will come to a close, you know. Oh. Lamp? That was happening. I didn't like that, Lamp. I did not like that. What was that? You're so loud, Lamp. Why are you so loud? Oh, my head is killing me. Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah, I know I said I'd try and read something more than the rats, but I think the other one's beyond me tonight. I think I'm gonna... Oh, my head is doing my... I think I'm gonna have to go. Thank you for stopping by as always. I do genuinely appreciate it, and sorry I had a funny spell there. I don't sorry for the short stream. It's only been like half an hour, but yeah, you're very welcome, Nazca. Sorry it's only been a short one. Just yeah, very welcome, Abba, very welcome. Oh man, it's killing me. Oh, would do. Yeah, thank you everyone for stopping by. I don't know what was happening with why has it been an hour? What? It was only like what? The little thing in the corner there says it's been an hour and 20 minutes. I thought it was only like 30 minutes after I'd done the rats. What? Lamp? Lamp, what's going on? What's going on, Lamp? I don't like